Well, hey, buddy. A little late for the phone call. What's going on?
It's getting pretty close to Ignite. And, it's really bugging me right now is we used to do a really cool know before you go video. But this is a digital experience. We're not going anywhere. So I'm kind of bummed that we don't have anything.
We could do a know before the show video.
Oh, intriguing. Tell me more.
So I'm thinking we go over some of the things like profile, schedule builder, maybe even some of the learning zone and fun stuff.
Okay.
But we do this by we should harass some of the members of your team.
I like that. You know what? Pierre was telling me earlier today he was playing around with profile information, how important that was. Let me give him a call and see what he has to say.
Yeah, give him a call.
Hey, how you doing? Okay, so you want to know about profiles for Microsoft Ignite. Very simple, very important. First, go to myignite.microsoft.com and authenticate. Once you're authenticated, upper right, click on your name, drop down to My Profile. In the profile section, there are 3 pages. Number 1 is your attendee information. That's your first name, last name, your job title, a short bio, and your socials information, such as your Twitter handle and your blog or website. And the page number 2 is your attendee profile. That is your job type. Are you a system administrator? Are you a developer? Are you a decision maker? So you pick that plus all of the technologies that you're interested in. So that's very, very cool. Number 3 is your contact preferences. And in the contact preferences, this is where you can either opt in or opt out of some of the digital connections you can make with other attendees, because you can publish your schedule and your profile to a registry so that other attendees may request a one-on-one meeting with you, or you request a one-on-one meeting with them. So that's very important. So go ahead, fill out all that information, and then make the most of the digital experience. I also remember you were asking me about session type. I think you need to call Sonia. She's got some great insight on that. Well, if that's it, I got to go back to finish fixing my Jeep, and I'll see you next week online at Microsoft Ignite.
Hey, man, listen. Pierre's totally right. Sonia, she'd know all about session types.
Oh, hi guys. Yeah, it's going really well preparing for the big event. Got lots of boxes, just waiting for the keys. The other big event. Look, there'll be lots of fun things to watch and to be involved in. So why don't I show you around the different session types? I'll grab my laptop and share my screen as soon as I can figure out which box I put it in. Okay, found it. It's always in the last box you look in, right? Of course. For our Ignite session types, we have our key segments. Start with those. They are the sessions you don't want to miss from some of Microsoft's most recognized names like Julia White, James Phillips, and Brad Anderson. Now, don't stress too much about the time on this. I'm not getting up at 2 a.m. as much as I love Julia White. These sessions are repeated across the time zones, so I'm going to catch that one at a later time. Next, we have our digital breakout sessions. Now, these most represent a traditional conference session with somebody speaking, showing us some slides, maybe doing some demos, and you being able to ask your questions in the chat if you're registered. And our speakers will ensure they've left time to answer your questions. Then there's the connection zone. This is where all the fun happens, from yoga to creative brain games, and a chance to talk about some of the human side of tech as well. You'll notice that some of the sessions here are longer to give people room to connect with their communities and also connect with people in their local regions as well. And we also have the learning zone. So the learning zone covers everything from some of our introduction to tech sessions. If you're new to the industry, or if you're new to a particular technology you want to learn more about, right through to our Microsoft Learn workshops. So they are these 75-minute sessions where you can actually interactively be guided through some of the topics inside Microsoft Learn. So that's the different session types. Go ahead and choose what Microsoft Ignite is going to look like for the two of you, and I'll get back to some more packing.
Well, I hope she didn't pack her badge for the event. That wouldn't be good.
Well, at least she's got her laptop out, so we'll see what goes on there. But,
Yeah.
While you were talking to Sonia, I was just having an IM conversation with Sarah, who's been doing a lot of work with schedule building.
Yeah, nothing like
I'll
paying
interact
attention
with
to
that.
your team while they're talking, right?
No, I know. It's we work on that together. It's multitasking is what the official term is. So
No, I got you. So what's Sarah up to?
so she's talking about building her schedule. So she was
Okay.
just online a second ago. Let's see if we can bring her in.
That sounds good. Hey, Sarah.
Oh, hey, you've just caught me pottering about in the garden. Yeah, the schedule at Ignite is super important. So here we are in the Ignite website, and we want to go into the session scheduler. Now, when it first loads up, we're going to see every session that is happening at Ignite. But we want to try and filter that down so as we find the things that are relevant to us and what we want to learn. So we can click on Refine Results, and we can refine it down to things like solution area or level of session or even session type. But we can also use the search bar, so we can search for terms that we want to have a look at. Now I want to see if there's any Windows Server sessions, so I type that into the search bar and it returns my results. So I click on the session that I want to add to my schedule and I want to make sure I attend. And that's it now added. But I also want to find out what's happening with the Azure Static Web Apps. So I put that into the search bar and I see a bunch of sessions. Now I'm going to pick this session and you'll notice that it says RSVP. So this is a slightly different session. It's a really interactive or hopefully really interactive session. And we want to be mindful that our people are adding them to their calendar and are aware of that. So that's what the RSVP is all about. Now that I've added what I want to my schedule, I want to have a look at it and make sure that I've built it correctly and I've not got too many overlapping sessions. So here's my custom schedule, and you can see here on Thursday there's the extra sessions that I added to my calendar. Now I want to make sure that I remember to go to these sessions, so if I click on the little calendar icon beside them, I can get a file that I can then create a calendar appointment within my calendar, and it'll remind me, it'll block out that time, and no one will hopefully clash another meeting on top of it, and I can attend that session fine. I can also remove sessions here as well from the My Schedule section, so you can customize it and build it depending on what you want. So hopefully that's helped you understand how to use the schedule builder. Have fun building your own schedule, and I'll see you at Ignite.
We still haven't covered the item that you and I get asked about all the time when we talk about Microsoft Ignite.
Yes, it's time to discuss the backpack, but who should we ask to cover this big thing?
I just happen to see someone come online right now.
Oh?
Mr. Bartolo is available.
Ah.
But he's online on Xbox Live, I do see.
Well, I think it's time for you to call one of your team meetings and we all connect and maybe discuss the backpack.
I think so. Let me see if I can get his attention here.
Wow. So you want me to do a backpack reveal? I can't review last year's backpack. I actually have to review this year's backpack. But this year's backpack is actually digital, which is really cool. Let me share my screen and show you what it's all about. What's cool about the backpack is it allows you to take the stuff with you after the event. Each entry you put in there has all the linked resources made available to any of the recorded content. Let me show you how to get started. Simply click on My Event and Backpack, and then My Backpack on the login screen. This will allow you to capture information on sessions you can attend, attendees, speakers, and partners that are at the event. Do note that speaker and attendee contact info is only available if they opt in. It also provides a connection to their LinkedIn profile. Once you've completed capturing all the information, simply click on Download My Backpack. I know, the digital backpack sounds too good to be true. Is it as easy as taking your item and putting it in your backpack? Well, let me show you something. All you have to do to add a session to the backpack is inside of Session Scheduler, find the session you're interested in and save it to Backpack. If you want to add individuals or partners, you can also do that inside of My Backpack. Simply go to either attendees, speakers, or partners and find the individuals you want to connect with. It's as easy as that. And with that, you'll have them attached to your Word document for viewing later. This Word document is a representation of all the items that you've captured throughout the show. as well as resource links made available for each of the resources. And that's the digital backpack in a nutshell. A one-stop resource to capture all the learnings from Microsoft Ignite 2020 in a centralized repository. And now, back to work on showing Rick who's boss. Catch you later.
You know, I'm going to give you a run for that last spot on those leaderboards. I'm telling you.
No. Last spot is definitely reserved for me. That's it. But you know what? This is kind of bringing us to a nice close for covering off the main points that people should know before they go to the show.
Absolutely. Right. We've talked about building out your profile, building your schedule, those community connections, the learning zone, and even my backpack.
Yeah, no, the backpack I think is going to be key here because all throughout the entire process, once you've registered at myignite.microsoft.com, you can put the stuff that's important to you, your company, and your colleagues inside of your backpack, including people, including speakers, and including sessions. But you have the links to all the post-event resources inside that downloadable Word document, which is the backpack.
Now, you can get all of this and more September 22nd through the 24th as we give you Digital Microsoft Ignite for a 48-hour time frame, but you've got to be registered. Head on over to myignite.microsoft.com. Get yourself registered if you haven't already, and we look forward to seeing you at Microsoft Ignite.